honestly.
Welcome everyone to Chicago Football Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Letizia. Follow me on Twitter at CFC Bears. Joined by my co-host, Luke O'Grady. Follow him on Twitter at Luke O'Grady. It's been a while since we've been on. We both were very busy the last week after the draft. We were joking. I put off all my work duties for the 2 weeks lead up to the draft, and then it all caught up to me last week. So, but we're on again, and I'm happy to be back talking about the Bears. Obviously, we had the 10 pick draft class for the Bears. Since we're a week late, we're not going to go pick by pick and kind of go through each guy. But I think we want to talk just kind of general overview of the class, draft strategy, kind of our thoughts, picks we liked, picks we didn't like. So, let's get right into it. Luke, let's start with the pick we liked the most.
I don't know if me and you will agree on this.
Note.
I was thinking about this today. The pick that, it's funny, man. So this was my first time really getting into the draft and had a bunch of guys that I've watched a bunch of game of and kind of thought I had good ideas on. And I would say that coming out of the draft, I don't think we got a single one of my guys. But there was a lot of guys that I liked. And as the dust has settled, I think that the value picks we got in Tyler Scott and Roschon Johnson, those are really exciting to me. I think Roschon Johnson is an awesome player. He's such a good complement to that back room. And I know you're high on Tyler Scott. He is such a good, because I think he does better out of the slot as well. He is I don't care what he ran at the combine. That guy has legit take the top off the defense speed. But and I was critical of it, but I would say that my favorite pick even now is probably Darnell Wright, just because he was my tackle too, and I loved him. I loved his attitude. He's a nasty football player, but he's really, really well spoken in the post draft process, and it's cool to kind of feel like we have one of those players that turns it on, because he didn't seem like that nasty guy that you see on the field. He fits an immediate need, probably the biggest need on the roster, and he fits the mold of what you'd want from the way you were going to fill that position. He was probably the best pure pass protector in the class, and Bears made their play and took him at 10.
Yeah, I was gonna literally say the exact same thing. So I think we are actually on the same page. I love the way that day 3 opened up with Roschon trading back and getting Roschon Johnson was a great deal. Then getting Tyler Scott a couple picks later was just an absolute steal. Tyler Scott was one of my favorite guys. He was my wide receiver 6 in the draft, and I thought he was gonna go day 2, round 2, maybe round 3, and then we get him in the 4th. Just absolutely perfect. But then I was going to come back and say, it's nice to get excited about those, day 3 guys, but even the guys you really like sometimes, don't pan out. They ran on day 3 for a reason. So I think if you're talking about just best picks and favorite picks, it's got to be Darnell Wright. Like you said, fills an immediate need, brings a nastiness to the O-line. It's just also just nice to spend a first-round pick on offensive lineman, because it's been way too long since we've done that. Not since Kyle Long, I believe that was 2013, something like that. So 10 years.
The last time the Bears took an offensive line in the top 10, I think it was the last time they took a tackle in the top 10 was 40 years.
It's crazy. If you think about even just when the Bears were good, it was all just defense. We didn't have top tier offensive linemen. Our best offensive lineman probably in my lifetime was John Tate, who was this very solid player, but not anything.
Roberto Garza,
at least tackle. Olin Kreutz, but tackle.
Olin Kreutz, man. I know a lot of people have their opinions about PFF, but if you go back, they've gone back and done a snap by snap grading of people all the way back to maybe the 2000s, at least back into the 2006s. Olin Kreutz, man, if he had played 8 years later, you'd have an argument for being a Hall of Famer. He'd have 6 or 7 straight Pro Bowls. He was 92 plus in pass blocking every year.
Yeah,
he was your modern center.
Yeah, he might have bad football takes now, but he was a good football player back then.
He's a funny follow.
Sorry, I'm just kidding, Olin. Come on our show.
If you're listening,
we love you.
We do love you, dude.
We do love you.
We love it. You still do. You're hilarious on Twitter. You got a least favorite pick without trying to be too negative?
I don't know if I have a least favorite pick. I know, the day 2 picks are probably the biggest head scratchers. I would say maybe a head scratcher over a bad pick.
Yeah.
Like Gervin, I thought all three of those guys were like slight reaches, but I did like Zach Pickens a lot. I put him in my list of like my guys before the draft. So I like Zach Pickens. I liked Gervin Dexter too, although I think that was a little high for him. And I like Tyreek Stevenson too. I feel like Tyreek Stevenson of the day 2 picks was probably the best one. But
I actually lied. I can't even believe that I forgot. For some reason, I had completely blanked on Tyreek Stevenson. I was thinking in my head that the second pick we made in the draft was Gervin Dexter. And I was like, damn, like maybe I wasn't as excited about this draft as I thought I was. But let me go back and say we actually definitely did get one of my guys. And he might be the guy I picked as my favorite pick. I said going into the draft that if he could develop a little bit of off-zone skill, because he plays a lot of man right now, and he plays it good. He's consistent at that's something that's probably one of the hardest things to be consistent at in football. But I was saying that, other than maybe Devin Witherspoon, I don't think there's a cornerback in this class that has a chance to be like amazing much more than Tyreek Stevenson. I really do think he has the tools to put it all together. And I think he was trending in the right direction. That was such an awesome pick. Such an awesome pick.
Yeah, I think that was perfect. I mean, it was kind of, I like the pick a lot, but I just think it was kind of odd because, like you said, Tyreek Stevenson was, really good in man coverage, didn't play a lot of zone, but I don't think he can't do it or anything. But that is always just talking about the Eberflus defense. You always talk about it more of like a zone defense. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and actually look at the stats this last year to see if that was the case, but pleasant surprise that they went with him. I thought they were going to favor more zone guys, but yeah, I think he gives you now hopefully three legit starters at cornerback. I still believe in Kyler Gordon. I know he had a rough year, but he did get better as the year went on. So if Kyler Gordon pans out and Tyreek Stevenson thinks it gets to where we think he could be this year, we're talking about 3 legit starting cornerbacks. Maybe we don't have, that number 1 lockdown corner, but we have 3 really, really good corners. And that would be fine if you don't forget that top tier guy. But that, and at the very worst case scenario, he's insurance in case you don't re-sign Jalen Johnson. Maybe you can't get a deal worked out there. So it was just a great pick, great position of need, high value position. Poles talked about cornerback being a high value position, so that was a good get. I think the head scratcher is Gervin Dexter. Everyone's but he's probably been the most talked about draft pick of all the Bears players, I think. For good reason. Like I said, I wasn't as low on him as you and some of the other people that we've been talking about has been, but I do think he has the athleticism, he has the size, he just has the raw strength. Where I think when he was drafted, I said he has a really low floor, high ceiling. I actually think, as watching him more, I actually think he actually has a higher floor than I thought because he's just so naturally strong. That he's gonna be a good run defender in the NFL. It's the question is he ever gonna be enough of a pass rush threat to really be worth the 53rd overall pick in the draft, which is usually a place where you can still get a pretty quality player. So if he's just a good run stuffer and doesn't offer you much pass rush, it's probably not a great pick. But I do think he has that kind of floor on him. That you're not going to be really upset about that pick.
Yeah. You know what? I disliked it more at the time just because of opportunity costs. Some of my favorite players were still on the board, but the player himself, I really don't mind. And I don't mind the process either. And that was the position the Bears needed to kind of take a couple of shots at. So going Gervin Dexter right into Zach Pickens, I'm fine with that process. I think the biggest head scratcher to me, and it's really hard to get mad at what he might have been a 5th round pick, but Noah Sewell, that was a weird one. I mean, if you go back and check, there wasn't a bunch of players that would have made a huge difference still on the board anyway. But it just felt like with how much they play 2 linebacker football, only maybe 20% of the time, they already signed 2 linebackers to big money and have a really promising player on a cheap rookie contract in Jack Sanborn waiting in the wings. It didn't feel like we needed that. Just felt like a kind of a head scratch pick to me.
Yeah, I mean, you never want to, reach for need, especially on day 3. So if he must have just been the highest player on the board. But I do agree with you that it's just kind of interesting decision because once free agency happened, I stopped watching linebackers altogether because I was like, we're not drafting again. I'm not going to waste my time. So I never really got around to Noah Sewell's tape pre-draft. I obviously took a look at it afterwards. The 2022 tape was bad. I was like, why the hell did we draft this guy? This guy's awful. 2021 tape was a little bit better, and that seems to be the consensus. As a guy, after 2021, he was viewed as borderline first round pick, but his last year's tape was pretty bad. So I understand kind of gambling on that, taking a chance in round 5.
They were kind of almost using him as like in like a Zadarius Smith like stand up inside backer pass rusher kind of thing. And he was asked more in like last year, like kind of like a Lance Briggs downhill outside backer. But last year he was asked to like cover more and play middle of the field more, and he just didn't look good, did he? He kind of looked a little more out of shape.
I was gonna say he looked slower. He didn't have the same change of direction. He didn't have the same like burst. So I don't know what was going on there. But if you can get the guy you had in 2021, if you can get that guy, then that's a great pick. If he's the 2022 guy, then probably he's going to be out of the league soon. But in the 5th round, pick 148.
Yeah,
there are worse gambles to take there. But I agree with you that it was kind of weird. I know a lot of people are really high on Terrell Smith, the cornerback from Minnesota. It seemed like he had the most volatile projection. There were some people who had him in their top 100, and then there were some people who had him outside like their top 200.
Yeah, it seemed like that was like I even messaged the group and said that was the first name I didn't know.
Yeah.
For being the first name that I didn't know, he seemed to be the guy that was like most pleasantly like, oh, the Bears got a good one. I didn't really see that about Pickens, and didn't really see that about like I mean, I feel like low key everybody loved the Roschon Johnson pick, but like,
for sure.
Coming out, like a bunch of people were saying like, yo, watch out for Terrell Smith. Like this guy could make waves. And man, the fact is when you get a Tyreek Stevenson in the 2nd round and you say to yourself, okay, like I can trust, or like my expectation is that we can lean on him to start this year opposite Jalen Johnson. Taking a flyer on Terrell Smith just because he's the best player on the board is like one of those moves that takes, that room from an injury away from being worrisome to being actually competitive.
For 100%. Yeah. I think, everyone, when you're projecting like how good your team's going to be, you look at the 22 starters that are on your team, but really the teams that, win double-digit games, the teams that are really strong in that, 30 to 53 range on their roster.
Yeah, they can get over an injury.
And that's starting to be what we're hopefully building here. Obviously, we don't know if Terrell Smith's ever going to be any good, but I like the idea of getting that 4th corner. He's going to compete with Kindle Vildor to be that 4th corner, the first guy off the bench if there's an injury or whatever. And I think that's something that they desperately needed. Again, a premium position. They besides Noah Sewell and maybe I guess Roschon Johnson, they drafted pretty much all premium positions.
Yeah.
So that was really good to see. I like that approach that they had. I thought they had found good value. They kind of got their guys on day 2, but on day 3, I think they went for more value picks and everything like that. So it made sense. The 7th round picks to me, probably aren't going to do much. That's Travis Bell from Kennesaw State and Kendall Williamson from Stanford.
Yeah.
That seems to be like they just really like Travis Bell and just like the person, wanted to get him in the locker room, which I have no problem with the 7th round pick. And Kendall Williamson kind of just seems like a special teams guy, which is fine too. If you get drafting for special teams around 7, I have no problem with that.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think there seemed to be a lot of comments made about character going in, like the press conferences that followed, like after day 1, and then like the draft recap. Everybody that Pulls and Flus were talking about, they were saying, we like the player, but we like the guy even more. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, I don't mind at all. It could be one of the reasons why you see Darnell Wright in a Bears jersey and not Jalen Carter. Because, they were prioritizing, hey, at the very least, we're going to have good people in the room. Not to say that Jalen Carter isn't, but they were concerned. But yeah, I mean, I think to be honest, as Bears fans, you guys should go back and watch the press conference following the draft specifically. There's a lot of really, really good nuggets about the team building philosophy from Poles. I thought it was interesting that he said when they go into the drafts, they want to have double-digit picks. He was like, it was important for us to get 10. And I was like, huh.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like that too. I mean, that's what I've been saying. I mean, everyone's been saying for years is we want to have more picks in the draft. It was something that previous GMs were always trying to trade up and get their guy.
Yeah,
but it's just a better strategy to get more picks because you get just more swings and eventually you're gonna connect.
How you fill that depth, like we're talking about. It's how you get like a Noah Sewell behind Jack Sanborn and the boys. It's how you add Roschon Johnson to a list that already had Travis Homer, Dante Foreman and Khalil Herbert. Like if I kind of thought, like, if the season starts tomorrow, those were going to be our guys. Like I didn't expect us to be drafting a running back at all, at least not till late. And then you draft someone like Roshan Johnson that could legit be like RB1 on that team by,
Yeah.
week 5 or 6, like that it turns like we said, it turns a room that you're maybe a little worried about into a strength, into something that you feel like you have good depth with.
Yeah, I really like our running back room. I think it's going to be the strength of our team.
Dante Foreman is sick.
Dante Foreman's sick. Khalil Herbert's. I mean, just
Fully
running
sick.
the football.
Fully
running
sick.
the football is like one of the best running backs in football.
Like,
if you don't take
I was watching, like, just for fun. I was just watching Khalil Herbert like season highlights like 2 or 3 days ago, just to remember. You remember the plays you don't remember.
Yeah,
dude, he's nice. Like, he's nice. He's got great contact balance. He's got like really underrated like change of direction. The first guy doesn't tackle.
Yeah. Now you throw in Roshan Johnson. I think Travis Homer's a good third down back. He's going to make an impact too, potentially.
And Travis would be great on third down.
And then you also take into account that we have Justin Fields. So he just makes their job so much easier. He makes it opens up running lanes just being on the field. So I think, again, I think we're going to throw the ball a little bit more than we did in 2022. I think that's why Darnell Wright is a Chicago Bear, is because that's what the plan is. But
felt like there was some stuff going on last year, didn't it? We talked about it.
Yeah, but it'll be nice to have a strong running attack as well to kind of wear demons down, get the play action going. I know, there are studies out there you don't have to run the ball successfully to set up play action, but we know they're still going to run the ball. They're not going to be a drop back 50 times a game and throw the ball 50 times. Like, that's not going to be their offense, but they should throw the ball more. And again, that's why Darnell Wright's a Bear over maybe a guy like Broderick Jones, who got taken after him, who was a better run blocker, but not as strong of a pass blocker. So I think that is the plan. I think we should probably talk a little bit about, I know it's probably been talked to death, but we should probably bring up, Jalen Carter and the thought process of going with Darnell Wright, trading back one spot and passing up Jalen Carter, who by all accounts is just on the field, at least a top 2 player in this draft class, depending on how you view Will Anderson. So we think we both said before the draft that if the Bears passed up on Jalen Carter, we wouldn't fault them. And I stick by that. I'm not faulting them. This is not revisionist history. I hope not. I'm pretty sure I said that. So
I'm saying I'll fault them for you.
You're gonna fault. Okay, so I think. Look, it might turn out to be a terrible decision. I don't think it's gonna turn out to be a terrible decision because I think Darnell Wright's gonna be good. But it might look a little foolish in the future if if Jalen Carter is Aaron Donald 2.0 and just wrecking havoc on offensive lines. But I can't fault him. They clearly put an emphasis on character and everything like that. Every pick they had were high character guys, and I think he went to a perfect situation with the Eagles. And if he is a really good player of the Eagles, there's no guarantee he would have been that same player on the Bears.
No, 100%. The best thing for everybody in the universe was that he go to the Eagles. He had his teammate from Georgia that was talking it up. That team is run by their veteran leaders, so he's going to come into something that there's a pretty good routine and culture. They got a winning culture that he doesn't like. He can day one buy into. He wouldn't get disgruntled. And to some extent, the Bears have none of those things.
Yeah,
there's been a whole lot of team turnover the last 3 or 4 years. Like the longest tenured, if it's not like, I don't even know, maybe Eddie Jackson, Cody Whitehair.
Yeah, probably Eddie Jackson.
Like one of them.
Yeah,
like,
those two guys
that felt like the new guys on the block really recently are the longest tenured people on the team out of nowhere. We've had a new coaching staff last year. We're not really a winning culture. Actually, we lost the most amount of games in the NFL last year.
Yeah.
So like it could have been a recipe for like disaster with Jalen Carter for sure. And like I would hope that maybe if the Bears in 2 seasons start to develop some of those things, like have some homegrown guys that are like the veteran leaders, have a winning culture. Poles and Eberflus have been there for 4 or 5 years. I would hope then they'd bet on themselves that they could draft and develop a player like Jalen Carter. I understand not doing it now. I had him as the best player in the draft, and I was like, screw it, just take him. Like we could fix him. But from I guess to be fair, it's Poles' first ever first round pick. He probably wanted to make sure he was getting something that he could trust is going to show up in shape.
Yeah. I would also say that, you know, if this were next year, like even because the Bears were not one player away from winning a Super Bowl or anything like that. So even if this was next year, we have 2 first-round picks next year. If we have a top 10 pick and a similar situation happened, and maybe we put Justin Fields takes another next step this year, and we win some games, and we're in an exact same situation next year, maybe they might consider it more if to get a guy with more talent who might have some character concerns. But Jalen Carter on the Bears this year is not winning us the Super Bowl. So take the solid, take the safe player, and then go from there. A player at a very important position, and we kind of talked about this when we were doing our live show on the Friday. If you didn't pick Darnell Wright at 9 or 10, and you went with Jalen Carter, let's say, where are you getting your right tackle? Because by the time we were back on the clock at 53, Matt Bergeron was gone. A lot of other offensive tackles were gone. Like you were going to have to reach at that point.
I could paint you an amazing picture.
All right, let's hear it.
Where'd Dawand Jones go? 5th round?
Dawand Jones, went in like the 5th round or something like that for a reason.
If we came away with let me ask you. Dawand Jones and Jalen Carter. Actually, come on, that's headache central. But either way, Dawand Jones, Jalen Carter, or Darnell Wright and either one of them. Yeah, you can say Zach Pickens because I know you prefer him.
So I think if we're just talking best players, I would obviously take Jalen Carter and Dawand Jones, but I never really thought Dawand Jones was a great fit for the Bears. I know we disagree. I know we disagree there, but that was just my opinion. So I'm fine with. I think Darnell Wright is a much better player than Dawand Jones. So I'm fine with that. And Gervin Dexter is obviously not nearly the player that Jalen Carter is, and will probably never be. But I think he's a solid player, and he's going to be good. So
that's probably just that's like kind of the nature of the argument is that you can approach the draft by like evaluating alternatives and sometimes saying I'll defer to the better character and like let the draft play in a different way. Like sometimes you'll have the chance to take the defensive tackle with the character issues, and then but maybe because you had to take a character issues guy there, you have to come back and take a character issues tackle later on. Whereas you just stick with the good.
Yeah, I mean, and Dawand Jones, like I said, he went 5th round for a reason. It wasn't character like Jalen Carter, but it was other off the field stuff, non-football related stuff. It was like weight stuff, and he just does not loving football. Wasn't that what it was?
Oh, yeah. Well, kind of. He was like they asked him like what he like wants to do with his life, and he went to Ohio State first as a basketball player, and then decided to play football as well. And he said like he would walk around 60 pounds different. But they were like, "What do you want to do?" And he was like, "My dream is to play in the NBA." They're like, what the fuck are you talking? What do you were the Atlanta Falcons?
Yeah, right. Like you're 400 pounds. You're not playing in the NBA. Yeah. No, like there were concerns there too with him. So it's like, I mean, just as football players, they were great, but they clearly put an emphasis on character and loving football, and I can't fault them for that because I don't think the Bears have done enough of that.
No, and tell you what, man,
decade or so,
you're not gonna have. It'll never hurt to put together a room of good people around like your team. Like if by good people, it doesn't mean just like, kind and generous. If it means like hardworking and like inspiring and good teammates, like if they hold if their character is a high bar, you're going to be building a good team for sure.
Yeah. You want your veterans to set a tone, not only with like vocal leadership, but with how they approach every day and how they train and everything like that. So when you do bring people in like Jalen Carter, who maybe might have some issues, they see other guys doing it and what they expect, and that kind of sets the tone. And we didn't really have that right now. But it sounds like, I mean, Darnell Wright, they put him through the gauntlet, and he sounds like he came out pretty good.
Dude.
Everything I've read about Roschon Johnson is that he's a great leader and just
like legit. Like every coach that had him before is like, this guy's the greatest guy ever.
Yeah, like I like the player.
Like he's my favorite teammate I've ever had.
Yeah, I like the player, and then I was reading all this stuff, and it's like, wow, I can't believe this guy lasted to the pick 115. Like the NFL is always crazy about guys like that. I'm surprised he didn't go higher. So I think him playing behind Bijan Robinson was like a blessing in disguise. If he was a run somewhere, he probably goes day 2 easy.
Dude, I had him as a top 5 back in this class. Like it's one of those like really nice, like, you know, if even if he was like a bad character, you'd have to look at him at that spot and go, well, he's really good though,
Yeah.
and he had the character that he had.
Yeah.
That was one
Yeah.
of, I felt like it was the one that was like kind of like touted the most, or like just because it was a name everybody knew, and there was
Mhm.
especially like fantasy football loves Roshan Johnson for some reason. I feel like it got a lot of talk, but like it deservedly too. Like he's an awesome addition to the team. Wearing number 30, nice clean running
Yeah,
back
I love
number.
that number.
Yeah,
I like him in a jersey in the 30s. If you're a bigger back, you got to be in the 30s. Smaller back, you can get a number in the 20s. That's
100%.
always how it works.
Well said.
And then I do want to come back to Tyler Scott a little bit too, because I think
That's your boy.
that was my boy, and that was such a pick for Justin Fields, like
Yeah.
a guy who can get open deep, who does his damage, like he can do all
Dude,
the underneath stuff, but
How
he
much
does his damage
love
deep,
throwing a deep ball?
and no one throws a better deep ball than Justin Fields. Well,
Yeah.
that's maybe it is a hyperbole, but he throws a great deep ball, and he's definitely been more accurate deep than he has actually
Yeah.
short. So I think
Dude,
that was
Johnny
just
Kinsley does this awesome like statistical analysis of the football season
Mhm.
every year. It's called the Deep Ball Project, and year after year, strictly just deep balls. Justin Fields is like, I think when his rookie year, he might have been first, is like as far as like efficiency in that category, ever at least not top 3, and then he was top 5 again this year. Like that, it's his issue. He holds on to the ball, but when you give him time to set his feet in the pocket and throw the ball deep, he spins one of the best balls in the league.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a good shout out. He does a really good job with that.
Yeah.
And I think, him holding the ball a lot, holding the ball long is something that like maybe he needs to work on, but it also leads to really big plays.
And that's
And if you
where Tyler Scott comes in.
and that's where Tyler Scott comes in. Exactly. So we got a big play threat with your big arm young quarterback. I think that's absolutely perfect. He doesn't have to be, I think he is a better route runner maybe than he's given credit for, but he doesn't even have to be a great route runner to make an impact this year for the Bears. He just has to step foot on the field and he gives them a deep threat.
Totally.
So I thought that was just absolutely perfect.
Yeah, no,
I think
the Bears really committed to Fields in the draft. They went and got him extra help at running back. They took, I think we both agree, was the best right tackle in the draft, which was the only real hole left on the line. Yeah. I would say that they now have the tools in house to put together a very solid offensive line. Depending on coming out of training camp, who they think those guys are going to be. They got a lot of bodies that can probably move around in the interior. But with Braxton Jones and Jarnell Wright, you can't be mad about the tackles you're going to go into the season with. And if they can find 3 dudes that make sense along the line that can mesh, I don't know, like where they're going to put Whitehair or Patrick or Davis, or if they even like Tevin Jenkins at all. But like they have the tools now. And like, I mean, the Tyler Scott edition is, it's one of those things where it went from being an okay room to like, damn.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Velus Jones went from being like by the end of the year, like the wide receiver 2 to like the wide receiver 5, like legit.
Yeah, the wide receiver room, the running back room, the offensive line all improved. We're at the point where, if Justin Fields doesn't take that next step, then it might not ever happen. I think we both are in agreement that we think it's going to happen, but it's kind of like, there are no excuses. You set up the team where you can actually evaluate the entire offense. You can evaluate individual players, and Justin Fields is a big component of that. Obviously, I think a lot of this season depends on Braxton Jones' development.
Yep.
He showed a lot of promise down the stretch, which was really good to see.
Yep.
But he's not where he needs to be. He wasn't where he needed to be at the end of last year, that he needs to be at the start of next year. Like, he needs to take another step. And, when he was drafted, he was a guy who was drafted because he had high potential. Like, he was thrust into the starting lineup just because of necessity, but he got all the experience he could have ever dreamed of. So now it's kind of like, okay, we need to see another step forward. We have also seen, second-year guys take a step back, which would be really scary if that happens.
I am I think at this point, I must be the leader of the Braxton Jones fan club. I've said it before. It's the most important contract that I think that we have on the books. I believe that he is totally trending in the right direction. And honest to God, I would say it's a little bit of revisionist history to say that he was like thrust into the lineup. Like, last summer, there was those rumblings. It was like, hey, this Braxton Jones kid is about to beat out Riley Reef, who we just gave $10 million basically guaranteed to, because we thought we needed a tackle. And this guy we drafted in the 5th just said, no, the vet can sit on the bench. He got to start, and like you said, I don't think his body of work last year was good enough at pass blocking, and like that's what it needs to be for Justin. Justin and the dynamic of that running game will always make it easier to run block if on that offensive line, but they need to be able to pass block for him when the time comes. But I would say I was saying to a group chat that we have today that his like PFF grade for the last 6 weeks of the season versus the last 8 weeks of the season versus the first 9 weeks of the season was like 12 points better. Like he was like a top 15 over the last 8 weeks of the season, true pass block sets in the league. Like he was really trending in the right direction. And those are like, you can't really put an asterisk beside those true pass block sets. It's like he wasn't getting back help. That was him on an island. And like, if you consider how few players at the tackle position played as good as him as a rookie, like it really is underrated how very few tackles come in and play good. Like none of your favorite tackles, like in the NFL, maybe Tristan Wirfs, maybe Trent Williams, like were good as rookies. None of them like were as good as Braxton Jones as a rookie. Like I know it sounds crazy to say, but he had, again, I'm going back to PFF, but sometimes it's really hard to kind of like visualize offensive line stats. Like you can't just run around setting pancakes. But he ended up grading out as like almost an elite run blocker, like a top 10 run blocker in the league, and and as a top 18 tackle in the league. His rating of 75 is actually so good for a rookie tackle that I'm inclined to. I really do believe he's going to become a star.
I hope you're right. I hope you're. I don't think I'm down on Braxton Jones. I think I just need to see more. But I do think he can do it because like I said, when he was drafted, he always was viewed, at least by me, as he's a developmental tackle.
I think everybody.
Everyone. That's kind of like what. Yeah, everyone was like, okay, the team that drafts this guy, they're gonna let him sit for a year, maybe reevaluate year 2. 100%. The Bears just didn't have anyone good on the roster, so he did win that starting job. I'll give you that. So he wasn't thrust in the starting lineup, but he almost won it because we didn't sign anyone that was worth signing. Yeah. I mean, Riley Reef was not a good signing.
But when Riley Reef had to play last year, I thought he played good too.
Yeah,
but he played better than more.
But I agree with that. But I do like Braxton Jones. I think those last what was it? I forget this. You just repeated it, but I forgot. The last 6 weeks. 18. Yeah, was actually like a decent pass blocker at that point. So that was really good to see. But as I mentioned before, we've also seen second-year players kind of have a sophomore slump.
Yep.
And he's a guy who we can't afford to have a sophomore slump. Even if maybe he takes a sophomore slump, and then is good in year 3, that's fine. But like we need him to. So like you said, there's a lot riding on him. He seems to be kind of the linchpin to everything. Obviously, Justin Fields is the most important player in the Bears, but I think it's not even questioned. Braxton Jones is too.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of what you can expect the Bears to be this year will be emblematic of how Jones plays. Like, right, you can look on paper right now and say the Bears actually have no business being anything but like really good on offense. If
on paper we're looking good.
Player we've seen, that wide receiver room is talented. You have one of the biggest X factors in the league with Justin Fields. We've been enamored by the running back room. If Braxton Jones doesn't regress back to what you'd expect as a fifth round rookie, that offense could be really good because if he takes a step forward, he's the best offensive lineman you have, and Tevin Jenkins is like a great offensive lineman. So you'd have 2 really good players and some promising stuff around them. But if he does regress, now your best player is Tevin Jenkins, and you don't really have depending on what you'll get from Darnell Wright, you don't really have another above average player on the line.
Right. Yeah, no, it all hinges on him. I mean, I like Darnell Wright, but he's a rookie, so he's going to struggle. It's just the way it is at times. Hopefully, it's more good than bad. I like Tevin Jenkins, but if Braxton Jones he doesn't even have to become the best left tackle in football. He doesn't have to become a top 10 left tackle in football. You just got to be top 15.
Give me the Charles Leno
top 20. Yeah, exactly. Give us Charles Leno with the rest of this offense and with actual receivers and a running game.
Yes,
I'll take Charles Leno at that point. So it's not like we're asking.
We let him walk, and then we realized all you need at tackle is good enough.
Right. Yeah. The good enough tackles are good enough for a reason. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But if Jones does take that next step, then and Darnell Wright think is the right tackle, I think he could be, and Tevin Jenkins continues his ascension, and Nate Davis comes in, then you're looking at your weakest position is probably Cody Whitehair at center or Lucas Patrick at center, whoever they decide to go with. And if they're your worst offensive lineman, you could live with that. Like
100%.
that's going to be fine. So then we're looking good. But yeah, I think I agree with you. Offensively on paper, if the sky's the limit, and like
Yeah.
defensively, there are still some holes, especially as the pass rush. I think pass rush is a big hole, but I think every Bears fan at this point in their lives would say we'd rather just have a good offense and see what happens there,
100%.
and deal with the defense maybe being a step behind because it's again not something we've seen ever.
Yeah, I think like we're saying, the offense is in such a good position because the only thing that was left was that right tackle position. And I honestly think that's why what you saw in the draft, the Bears took the best right tackle they thought in the draft, and then the next 3 picks, defense. Because it was like, okay, this defense really is still bad. By adding Darnell Wright, it kind of gave them at least they could say, okay, we have a vision or like a path forward to a very trustworthy starting 11.
Right.
Before adding him, it was like, oh, who knows? We got to go with Borum again, and then if someone regresses, you're really in trouble.
Yeah.
So, the offense really is in a good spot, and I think the shots that they took at defense with 3 out of their 4 really premium picks was emblematic of how people view this roster right now. That defense really hasn't got a lot better in the offseason. The linebacking core absolutely got better, and adding Tyreek Stevenson makes that defensive backroom better, but the front 7, or at least the pass rush, the D line, it's can anyone really argue that we got better, if not just maybe step to the side? I know some people are higher on the defensive line signings than me, but none of them are really we didn't make any splash plays along the defensive line.
No, they're going. I mean, they're going. I don't love the players, but I like signing multiple players so you can get a rotation going. That's what I like about it. I don't think we don't have that 1 or even 2 guys you really need to let you be like, okay, those guys are going to make the quarterback's life hell. We don't have that, and that's going to be an issue. It just is what it is. I mean, maybe we could sign, there's some guys out there, Yannick Ngakoue, Jadeveon Clowney. You can bring in a guy like that. I don't think any of those guys really take you over the top, but it does get you to a little bit more closer to respectability. But you know what helps your pass rush is playing with a lead, and your offense scoring points will help you do that. So if you're playing with a lead more often, we didn't play with a lead. Obviously, we were the worst team record-wise in football. We didn't play with a lead a lot. So that's going to help hurt your pass rush. So hopefully that
our offense could be
we're scoring more points. If we're scoring more points, hopefully that will help the pass rush a little bit. So
the Bears really could have a good offense this year. It would be we haven't
something.
even talked about and Getsy had his chance to talk to the media yesterday and could not stop mentioning it, that the fact that this whole unit is other than Darnell Wright and Nate Davis, I guess DJ Moore too, but he made a comment that DJ Moore is good at playing with new quarterbacks. There's a lot of consistency in the people that Justin Fields is seeing for the first time in his time with the Bears. He's got a second year in the playbook. He's got players around him that he's used to now. He's had Darnell Mooney for 3 years. He's gonna have Chase Claypool going on 2 years. He's gonna have Kmet now for 3 years. He's got Whitehair in front of him. He's had Khalil Herbert now for 2 years, all in the same system.
Yep.
The offense, man, we really should be we saw flashes of it last year of what it could be, that stretch after the mini bye for 4 or 5 weeks when we were putting up 30 points every game, and it was this is how it should look.
Yeah.
We could get a lot of those next year.
Yeah, I mean, just sprinkle those ones in. We don't have. I mean, even if we can get just 25 points a game, something like that would be probably enough to at least get us excited for the future. I don't think. I don't know about you, but I don't have a lot of hopes for winning a Super Bowl this year. But if we are putting up 25 points a game and Justin Fields takes the next step and Braxton Jones looks good, then I'm thinking Super Bowl in 2024. So
low key, teams that get hot at the right time can win Super Bowls. There really is an aspect of just make the playoffs. I don't think that there's any chance that if you ran 100 Madden seasons that the Bears would ever win one. But if like you said, if you get a good deep rotation where maybe you don't have any stars, but you have a couple of good players that you can keep fresh on the defensive line, And if you do go and make a signing like a Jadeveon Clowney and a Yannick Ngakoue, so that there's more competition at that room, that offense like could put together 4 games where like you cannot stop Justin Fields. If Getsy and Fields get cooking, like he really like. I don't know if you could say that anyone else in the NFL is as big of an X factor. Pat Mahomes is psycho. Is as big of an X factor as Justin Fields can be if it all works out how we think it could.
Yeah, I think if you're just talking like that X factor ability, big play ability, top 5, like at least
you got that guy. If you got that guy at the helm, anything's possible.
Anything's possible. It'll be a fun season for sure. This is going to be a season that I'm always excited for the Bears football season, but this season in particular, I think is going to be up there with like the most excited I've ever been.
Oh,
we got so much hope and so much, kind of just young guys to watch. That's really what I like to see. So
this also
it'll be interesting for sure.
Like the first time that we're going to get, like what we all like. We're so excited about when we drafted Justin Fields. The first year he got all that nonsense about not being able to start. It was kind of ruined when he finally had to come in because of injury, and it was whatever. And then last year, it was like, new system again, new head coach. Not to mention Getsy the whole time was tempering expectations and says, this isn't a system you just get in 1 year. But like
and no talent at wide receiver, bad offensive line, like nothing around him.
So he comes in now. We have the more talent around him everywhere on the offense. And he says yesterday or 2 or 3 days ago that Fields is light years ahead where they were when he started. It's just like, man, it's exciting. It really is exciting.
It is exciting. It's an exciting time to be a Bears fan, and we'll see if it ever comes, comes to fruition. But man, it's hard not to be excited. So
especially with doesn't look like the Vikings have gotten any better. If not, maybe taking a little step backward. Yeah. The Packers, there's just no way that they're better next year.
I mean, the Packers losing Aaron Rodgers is just a gift, regardless of what happens with Jordan Love, and the Packers hedging their bets with Jordan Love and giving him a contract instead of picking up his 5th-year option, and that's just lovely to see.
No, we like you. We like you.
We like you, but like not that much.
Not that would be crazy, Jordan.
Yeah, we think you're going to be really good, but like, what if you're not?
Yeah,
so, like here's a lesser contract.
We like you, Jordan, but dude, that's $18 million.
Yeah, so that was awesome to see. That's a whole other pod we could probably do for another hour if we wanted to.
The division will be good. Like those are the guys that you really have to worry about beating, and the only people right now, I think, coaching and roster wise that are better than us are the Lions. That Lions team is good.
Yeah. And the Lions had an interesting draft, just like real quick if we want to talk about that, because they got good players. They just reached for like everyone. But like, I liked all the players that they drafted. So it's kind of it's kind of a weird situation.
Think about this. If it was 1984 and you said that the Lions came away with RB2 and inside linebacker 1, people would be like, holy.
Oh my God, they killed it. Yeah. And a safety who was like really good.
Yeah, but sure. they came away with some great players, but they took in with 2 really premium picks with great players still on the board. The Lions took 2 players that there were some rumors that maybe Jahmyr Gibbs actually wasn't going to make it out of the first, which is, he is a great player. Got a lot of Alvin Kamara in this game. But 2 positions that you see addressed in the first round a lot more rarely, running back and inside linebacker. The Lions spend their 2 first-round picks on it. Great players, honestly, both great players. But as Bears fans, such a treat.
For sure.
Such a treat.
For sure. It'll be a fun rivalry with all those teams kind of in the future.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anything else we got to add?
Anything else? The rookies went to minicamp, and then some other players, showed up. So we got to see our first lick of the new offense. Seeing Justin Fields throwing to DJ Moore was like, oh my God.
Just like a couple clips, but that's like all I needed to be like, okay, maybe we are going to win the Super Bowl this year.
Oh, man, this is the time of year. It's actually the worst. It's like almost like the offseason kind of flies to the draft.
Yeah,
and then between the draft and then showing up for training camp, like the next 2 months is torture. You get
just
nothing.
dead. Yeah.
I guess you get
we got the NFL schedule release on Thursday, which I really don't care about.
There's a Black Friday game this year.
I did see that. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, that's some neat stuff. Also, did you see that the Chiefs said, "Yo, we don't want to play the Bears in Germany"?
Yeah, I find that hard to believe. I did see that report, but I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. I feel like that was more the Chiefs just don't want to play in Germany at all.
Oh, I think that like they got chosen. I guess what? Yeah, maybe some team doesn't have to do it.
I don't know. I just
Apparently, like it's because like the Bears travel so well, and I've heard this
Oh.
before. People have said for years that like I remember people whenever we go to Dallas or whenever we go to Philly, like even the commentators will say, oh, this almost looks like a Bears home game. So it's like I know that the Bears fan base travels well, but there were some notes on Bears Twitter that like legitimately like because of how well they travel, like the economic boost it brings to cities when they have a home Bears game is like something the Chiefs are like, no, we don't want to give Germany that revenue.
Yeah. I mean, I see. So so it's more like they want to play Chicago in Kansas City.
They want to come to because it's like we're on their home
Okay.
schedule. Someone like
Yeah.
did post that it was like, yeah,
Right.
like you could estimate that just Bears fans traveling in will spend $8 million in that economy in 2 days. It's like, holy.
That makes a little bit more sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll find out on Thursday if we're playing in Germany. I know there's a lot of Bears fans overseas who were excited about that game, so hopefully they didn't buy tickets just yet.
I was going to say, imagine you're the NFL,
Yeah.
you're the NFL, and like he's like the Chiefs are calling. We're like, what do they want to say? He's like, they hate the Germany game. We're releasing the schedule in 2 days. What are we going to do?
Well, we'll find out.
I would hate if we had to go. I don't like those having to get up at
Yeah,
6
I don't.
watch the Bears.
I don't like that either. But at least it was an away game. At least you're not losing a home game. That was
Yes.
the only thing that was okay with it.
Dude, they were let me see if I can find this. They were like they showed like and I know people have already seen it. Oh man. There's apparently it's already been leaked.
The schedule.
Yeah, I just saw a post about it. Oh.
So.
Anyway, but they were it was just like a post of the people that we play at home next year.
Yeah.
And dude, like they're like there are very, very few losable home games next year.
Mm-hmm.
Next year at home, we play the Lions once.
Okay.
We play the Packers, the Vikings, obviously.
Sure.
We play the Falcons, the Panthers, the Broncos, the Raiders, and we play the Cardinals.
Yeah, those are all winnable games. I mean, we're not going to win them all, but they're all winnable.
Well,
we'll see. I mean, maybe.
We found a way to lose an insane amount of games last year. We could sneaky win a bunch of games this year.
True. I do like the fact that we're playing the Panthers because that's either we're going to lose or they're going to lose. So
that's
get a better draft pick.
Yeah. The I think honestly, like realistic expectations of what you want from the Bears this year is kind of what you saw from the Eagles 2 years ago. A team that was putting it together, had flashes of really great games, won some nice games, made the playoffs, got dusted by those teams. That sounds a lot like something what the Bears season next year could look like. If we get to the playoffs, we'll still be young enough that we'll probably have to take a dusting in the playoffs before we start to really cut our own jibs in there. But the team is talented enough, at least on offense, to carry them, especially with a home schedule like that, to an 8 or 9 win season.
Yeah, I think it would be disappointing if we're at least not in playoff contention, like right up until the end, maybe the last couple of weeks. At least. I mean, if we get eliminated from playoff contention with like 6 weeks to go or something, I think that'd be something went wrong and it's been a disaster. So I think we could at least have to be like
draft. We'd be like, well, with our pick and the Panthers pick, we can get Martin Jr. and next year will be great.
Yeah.
No, I think barring any injuries, the Bears got enough talent on the roster, and if you believe in the coaching, for them to definitely have playoffs on the mind this year.
Yeah, injuries will be big because I don't. Sorry, what was that?
The tank is over.
Tank is over. Yeah, injuries are going to be big because I think depth will be an issue for the Bears this year because we've had 21 picks the last 2 years, but we're still not like there yet. Yeah, I think one more year with double-digit draft picks, and we're going to be a very deep team. But I think right now our depth could be a weakness of ours if we have some injuries. But if we manage to stay a little bit healthy, then I think the playoffs are at least in the conversation. Yeah, it should be in the conversation.
Yeah, and it'll be fun. It was being a Bears fan was weird last year.
Yeah.
Because like we said, like some of the Getsy decision making, it was okay. Like either we have two absolute cowards running the team, like
Yeah.
running the offense and running the team with how many field goals we were taking and how much they had first down run, second down run. I was like, either
Yeah.
they're cowards or there's a little bit of something going on. And from a team building point of view, if there was a time to do a little bit of a rebuild, it was that year for a new regime. And by
Yeah.
week 4 or 5, it was like, okay, maybe they're not valuing winning as much as getting some experience and getting themselves a draft pick. But if week 1 this year, they're going first down run, second down run, and they're kicking field goals and they're punting inside the 50, I'm going to lose my mind. It'll be a failed regime.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. I think with everything they've done this offseason, everything we've seen, I think we can confidently say that the reason they were so conservative last year was because of the talent around Justin Fields and not because of Justin Fields. I mean, you think everything they've done to surround Fields with talent, with whether it be Darnell Wright, DJ Moore, Tyler Scott, all these Roshan Johnson, all these picks, all these acquisitions, and then you have Justin Fields, going back to OSU and graduating, and Kevin Warren's there at his graduation. I think it just goes to show that this regime and this franchise really truly believes in Justin Fields, and everything we saw last year with that conservative play calling was the surroundings and not him. So, and I think we'll see more aggressive play calling, more like more aggressive, more just what am I looking for? I don't. You know what I'm saying? Aggressive play
More, yeah, I do 100%. You know what I mean? Not like less of the old like style football.
Yeah,
like
more imaginative play calling.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like you can probably look to like the last MVP season of Aaron Rodgers. That, in a nutshell, is like kind of the offense that Getsy is likely trying to build. Now, obviously, it's going to look a little different when you have someone like a Justin Fields at quarterback. But if you want an idea of what the passing concepts will look like and how fast-paced and quick-hitting it should be, like that would be a place to look. Like it really should look like the modern offense that we've wanted from the Bears for a while.
100%. 100%.
But it never works out for us. We can never have a nice thing as far as the passing game goes. It won't happen.
Well, but maybe this time it will.
That's right, actually. That's like that.
The Tobias Fumke meme. Has it worked out with them in the past? No, but
might for
us. And that's exactly how we have to approach
100%.
This offseason. And I think, I know I said this in the past, but I think this is actually
it really does.
It is. Which God, every time I say it, I feel stupid.
So
I do think this is it.
Skeptical, but it's like I'll tell you what, if it were to happen, it would look a lot like this.
I think that's a good way to look at it. It's like we've done everything the right way.
Yeah, trading for a first-round receiver, drafting a first-round tackle. Trading a second-round pick for a receiver, drafting yourself a nice hot running back to go with your other two really sick running backs. Get yourself a stud quarterback that has shown you he can absolutely do everything you want any quarterback to do.
Right.
You want him to throw with precision, he can do it. You throw with anticipation, he can do it. You want him to throw it 70 yards in the air, he can do it. Do you want him to run a 4.4 flat 40? Yeah, he can do that too.
Exactly.
It should look exactly like this. It's just,
I've been.
I've believed before.
You're so right, though.
We have Jay Cutler now. We can't be bad.
This is just the absolute worst time. There's going to be nothing to talk about until training camp, and it's just going to, can't come soon enough.
Dude, the feeling in that first week of football in September when after Thursday Night Football happens, you're like, oh my God, a Bears game, a real Bears game where everybody's trying.
Yep, and that first game, the first drive, offensive drive, my heart is gonna be in my fucking throat, so
crazy,
shaking because
literally,
please look good, please look good,
yeah,
please look good.
Based on what you think about preseason games, we really don't get anything until then. Yeah. You'll get the whispers out of camp. Oh, somebody looks good, and maybe you'll get some veteran cuts. The Bears still have opportunities to add players that are absolutely different makers. Fans should realize that Bears still have the most effective cap space in the NFL after signing a really great draft class. They have the first priority to the waiver wire too. So if a good player hits the field that makes sense for the Bears, there's no chance the Bears can't get them if they don't want to.
Right. And
If
I
they
think
don't-
that's why we have
if they
that cap
don't get
space right
them,
now.
yeah, if they don't get them, it's because they chose not to. And I
Right.
agree. I think they've held on to that cap space because, they've done their first wave of free agency, kind of like Poles has shown he always will. High upside, maybe low floor, good people, good athletes, cheap money. That's kind of his MO. And then, hopefully take stabs at good players if they become cap casualties for any reason. Looking at you,
Yeah.
Carl Lawson.
I'm surprised he hasn't been cut yet, but yeah, that would be a good option. I'm sure we'll do a whole nother pod probably about some maybe cap casualty options and everything like that. No reason to speculate now, but I think that is a very good point. We have more cap space than anyone.
Yeah, but we're basically there, man. Other than those free agent cuts, we kind of have an idea of what the Bears roster in 2023 is going to look like now with the draft class. What would you rate the draft class? If you had to give it a grade.
If I had to give it a letter grade, which I hate doing, but I'll do it.
A++. It's simple, really.
That's a good point. Yeah, A++.
Yeah.
No, I'd probably go like a B+ because I couldn't give it an A just because it wasn't like. But I think it was very solid.
Darnell Wright is like you couldn't be more happy with that pick. You really couldn't. It was exactly what we needed.
Yeah.
He was there. Great choice.
Yeah.
I love Tyreek Stevenson. From a process point of view, I really do like the back-to-back shots at the D tackle position, even though there were D tackles on the board I liked more. It is what it is. We posted that's why we post our picks so people kind of know where we stand. Yeah, I think B+ is a great. Giving it an A would maybe if they had gone Jalen Carter, because I just think that risk-wise I could have. I was willing to take the risk, but I think it's definitely a B+. Bears got better.
Yeah, Bears got better.
Bears got better.
All you can hope for.
Yep.
All right, I think that's a good stopping point. Thanks everyone for listening. Make sure to like, subscribe, share. Really appreciate everyone's sharing and all the feedback we get, the comments. It's really nice to see. Really starting to kind of build something here. So thank you everyone who's supported in any way possible. So we really appreciate it. We'll probably be back next week. We're working on something I hope comes to fruition, which we'll update people on soon if it happens. That'll be really exciting. But until then, bear down, everyone.
Bear down.